Listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to reveal to you will challenge, disrupt, and entirely redefine everything you think you know about your struggles, your failures, and your current mental state. Look across the landscape of humanity, and you will discover there are only two distinct classes of people in this world. On one side, you have the vast majority, those who trudge through existence, utterly defeated, perennially tired, constantly complaining, merely surviving one grueling day at a time. But on the other side, there stands a rare and distinct breed. These are the individuals who stand tall and unyielding in the very face of adversity, who smile broadly when others break, who rise triumphantly when the masses quit, and who ultimately win. What is the dividing line? The difference is not a matter of raw intelligence. It is not a stroke of luck. It is not the pedigree of your education. No, the master key to this distinction is what I define as a positive mental attitude. Let me be absolutely clear. This is not the mere practice of thinking pleasant thoughts. This is not some superficial surface level optimism. This is certainly not the act of plastering a counterfeit smile across your face while your very soul is breaking in agony. True positive mental attitude is a profound spiritual power. It is the calculated, indomitable ability to look directly through the blinding fog of overwhelming difficulty and still execute your plans with unwavering faith, surgical precision, and absolute purpose. It stands as the only known antidote to human failure, and it is the bedrock foundation upon which all lasting success must be constructed. I spent over 25 years of my life intimately interviewing and analyzing the most powerful, successful, and influential men of modern history, titans like Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, and John D. Rockefeller. These titanic figures built vast, historic empires, not because their paths were easy or devoid of hardship, but because they deliberately developed this exact indestructible mindset. They did not cower in fear of failure. They invited it as a teacher. They did not surrender to setbacks. They studied them microscopically. They did not collapse under the crushing weight of immense pressure. They mastered the supreme art of transmuting defeat into a stepping stone for monumental success. And I am here to tell you that you possess that exact same capacity. But before you can wield that power, you must honestly answer a fundamental question. What is controlling your mind at this very moment? Is your consciousness dominated by fear, doubt, self-pity, and resentment? Or is it governed by faith, purpose, gratitude, and a burning desire? Understand this unalterable law of the mind. The human intellect never remains neutral. It is perpetually functioning under the influence of some dominant force. If you do not consciously direct your own mind, the chaotic currents of the world will direct it for you. If you do not ruthlessly master it, the forces of neglect and decay, the devil itself surely will. That is the profound truth I discovered when I finally stopped running and confronted my greatest, most formidable enemy, myself. Listen to me now with the utmost intensity. Your mental attitude is the one and only thing in the entire universe over which the Creator granted you complete, unchallenged, and unchallengeable control. You can take the reins of your mind this very second if you possess the sheer will to do so. This truth will do one of two things. It will either set you gloriously free, or it will deeply offend your library of excuses. The choice is yours, because what you believe, you inevitably become. Whatever occupies your dominant thoughts, you magnetically attract. Whatever your mind dwells upon, you will eventually live out in your physical reality. Perhaps you are sitting there saying, "But I have tried desperately to stay positive, yet life keeps hitting me with brutal force." To you, I must pose this critical question. What is your definiteness of purpose? No individual can ever hope to develop a resilient, unbreakable mental attitude without possessing a goal so burning, so consuming, and so utterly magnificent that even the specter of failure trembles in its presence. Show me an individual who lacks a clear, defined purpose, and I will show you a drifter, someone who merely floats aimlessly on the tides of circumstance. And the drifter, my friend, is always under the absolute control of negative forces. But show me a person who knows precisely what they want, who wakes up with a raging fire in their belly and a vivid vision cast across their mind, and I will show you an individual who cannot be broken by any earthly force. To forge this unbreakable, positive mental attitude, you must adhere to a strict tripartite formula. First, you must decide with absolute, crystal clear precision exactly what you want. Second, you must believe without a single shadow of wavering doubt that you will achieve it. And third, you must act daily in perfect, aggressive harmony with that belief. There can be no excuses. There can be no passive waiting for motivation to strike. There can be no dependence on favorable outside circumstances. Let me look you in the eye and tell you something that the average person will never have the courage to admit. The world does not owe you encouragement. The universe will never pause its eternal rotation to comfort your temporary weakness. But hear me well, the universe will always, infallibly reward definiteness of purpose when it is backed by absolute faith. The moment an individual decides that they will not quit, that they will never again surrender their consciousness to negative thinking, and that their mind belongs strictly to them, not to their doubts, not to their enemies, something truly magical occurs. The grand machinery of the universe shifts. They begin to magnetically attract the exact resources they require. The right people miraculously appear, unprecedented opportunities suddenly emerge, and a reservoir of strength they never knew they possessed begins to flood their entire being. At that point, the nature of reality flips. Failure itself begins to fear them. However, this total transformation can only begin when you grasp its next vital secret. Negative thoughts are not harmless, passing visitors. They are hostile, armed invaders. If you tolerate them in the slightest degree, they will seize total control of your mental home. If you entertain them, they will quietly eat away at your purpose from the inside out. And if you allow them to linger, they will masterfully convince you to quit on the very destiny that God Almighty placed you on this earth to achieve. Therefore, you must consistently perform what I call cosmic housekeeping. You must take a rigorous daily inventory of your thoughts. You must watch your inner speech with the vigilance of a hawk. In the very moment you catch your mind drifting toward fear, doubt, worry, or resentment, you must halt that thought immediately, treating it precisely like a dangerous criminal attempting to breach your front door. Slam the door shut and instantly replace it with a massive influx of gratitude, with unyielding faith, and with the commanding voice of personal power that declares, I was not born to be broken, I was not created to be weak. I am engineered from the very same divine substance that carved the mountains, that formed the galaxies, and that breathes through the lungs of the greatest champions of history. Now let us dismantle the single biggest lie that keeps the masses weak and subjugated. People love to sigh and claim, I'm just not naturally a positive person. I tell you that is absolute, unadulterated rubbish. You were not born positive or negative. You were conditioned. Your early environment trained you to think poorly. Your past experiences shaped your expectations. But absolutely nothing in your mental makeup is set in stone unless you passively allow it to be. What has been learned can be systematically unlearned. The faulty programming of your past can be completely overwritten. The master key to this rewiring is repetition. You become what you repeatedly do. You genuinely believe what you repeatedly say to yourself. Your ultimate attitude will always reflect the dominant thoughts you choose to entertain over time. Therefore, if you are truly serious about developing an unbreakable mental attitude, you must start at the source. You must fiercely control your mental input. Feed your mind daily with a rich diet of faith, courage, and truth. Speak words of absolute power even when you are experiencing profound pain. Read the profound words of greatness until they burn like wildfire inside your chest. There is no shortcut to this process. There is no effortless hack. But there is a definitive path, and it commences with a singular monumental decision that no matter what life hurls at you, your attitude belongs exclusively to you. It does not belong to your enemies. It does not belong to your critics. It does not belong to your past. It is yours alone. And that realization, my friend, is the exact birth of personal power. If you desire to build this unshakable positive mental attitude, you must fully master the psychological law of autosuggestion. What is autosuggestion? It is the deliberate, systematic method by which your subconscious mind becomes the fertile soil for either noxious weeds or magnificent fruit. Whatever idea, statement, or concept you repeatedly speak to yourself, whether it is a sublime truth or a debilitating lie, your subconscious mind will eventually accept, absorb, and ultimately execute as reality. Your external success is always, without exception, preceded by an internal conversation. Not a conversation with an outside party, but the critical conversation you hold with yourself. Your inner dialogue is operating every second as either the master architect of your greatness or the silent, ruthless assassin of your highest dreams. The individual who rises at the dawn of each day and declares with fiery conviction, I will win, I will persist, I will not be denied, begins to physically shape their outer reality through the sheer, irresistible momentum of mental faith. Conversely, the individual who wakes up, sighs, and mumbles, nothing ever works out for me, I'm so tired, I just can't do this, has effectively died before their feet have even touched the floor. Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But raw belief cannot be a passive one-time event. It must be forged daily through relentless, intentional repetition. It is a grave error to merely hope for success once and expect it to manifest. You must condition your mind exactly like a physical muscle, daily, intentionally, and ruthlessly. I challenge you to take 5 uninterrupted minutes every single morning to speak life, power, and authority into your major purpose. Do not do it passively. Do not do it softly under your breath. Do it with fire. Do it with immense physical strength. Do it with absolute clarity. Declare to the walls of your room, I am powerful beyond measure. My purpose burns 1,000 times stronger than my temporary fear. I attract exactly the people and resources I need because I expect absolutely nothing less from life. Admittedly, you may not feel the truth of those words when you first begin. That is entirely normal. The deep, subconscious mind is never swayed by fleeting, superficial feelings. It is permanently altered only by repetition, driven by deep, raw emotion. Say it again, say it tomorrow, and say it every day thereafter until the roaring voice of your victory becomes vastly louder than the whimpering voice of your doubt. Let us advance even deeper into this philosophy. An unbreakable mental attitude is an absolute mathematical impossibility without the strict application of self-discipline. It is a delusion to think you can master your destiny if you cannot even master your own daily habits. You cannot possibly hold a high, positive vibration if you remain a helpless captive to lazy, negative rituals. Discipline is the sturdy, indispensable bridge that spans the gulf between thought and physical reality. Without it, your grandest intentions remain nothing more than empty daydreams, and your ultimate destiny is permanently delayed. The monumental men I studied, Carnegie, Edison, Schwab, Ford, did not scale the heights of global success on raw talent alone. They rose to the apex of human achievement because they governed themselves with an iron fist. They deeply understood that the individual who cannot control their own thinking, their own time, their own appetites is nothing more than a slave living in a world designed exclusively for kings. So look inward and ask yourself, what mediocrity do you tolerate that actively weakens your spirit? What cheap distractions do you invite into your life that systematically delay your progress? What comfortable luxuries do you cling to that are actively robbing your grand future? An unbreakable mental attitude is never born in the lap of comfort. It is born through discipline maintained under intense pressure. It is forged when you stand at the crossroads and declare, I will read this book instead of scrolling mindlessly. I will rise early instead of sleeping late. I will speak words of absolute power instead of joining the chorus of complaint. Every single time you choose discipline over raw impulse, your inner spiritual strength expands exponentially. And every single time you surrender to comfort, your ultimate potential dies a little more. Now, let us discuss perhaps the most vital, foundational truth I discovered after a lifetime of studying the mechanics of success and failure. Every adversity, every failure, and every heartache carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. If you can anchor your soul into that single belief, it becomes impossible for you to ever truly lose. You may bleed on the battlefield of life, you may fall flat on your face, you may suffer intense temporary pain, but you will never ever be broken. Why? Because you will possess the supreme wisdom to know that this setback is not the tragic end of your story. It is merely the necessary, mandatory test before your imminent elevation. Look back upon the tapestry of your own life. Your greatest lessons did not arrive during times of ease and comfort. They were delivered to you in the wreckage of your sudden collapses. Your greatest moments of crystal clear clarity did not emerge when the sailing was smooth. They arrived precisely when the violent storm hit, forcing you to make the ultimate decision whether to drown like a coward or rise like a champion. Therefore, you must develop the highly profitable habit of aggressively looking for the good within the bad. Train your intellect to instantly declare, "This pain is preparing me for a greater responsibility. This failure is divine redirection away from a lesser path. This delay is protecting me from a premature victory." The moment you master that perspective, you become completely unshakable. You become incredibly dangerous to the forces of defeat, because life simply cannot destroy an individual who grows significantly stronger every single time they are struck. This brings us to another core teaching of my life's work. You are never a victim of your circumstances. You are only ever a victim of your chosen response to those circumstances. Two distinct men can face the exact same financial ruin, the exact same betrayal, or the exact same tragedy. One of them allows it to make him bitter, cynical, and broken. The other uses it to make himself infinitely better, wiser, and more powerful. What is the differentiating factor? It is their mental attitude. When life delivers a brutal slap across your face, you, and you alone, hold the absolute power to decide its meaning. Will you curse the blow and wallow in defeat, or will you bless it as a fierce, necessary teacher? When someone betrays your trust, will you become a resentful, closed-off cynic, or will you use it to establish ironclad boundaries and become vastly wiser? You cannot always control the external events that occur, but you always, with total sovereignty, control what those events become within your own mind. This is the grand, majestic secret of a positive mental attitude. It does not magically remove difficulty from your life. It radically redefines it. It does not stop the storm from raging. It teaches you how to walk directly through the gale with absolute majesty and purpose. Now, let me issue a stern warning. As you begin to execute this philosophy and elevate your mind, there will inevitably be people who despise your new mindset. They will mock your unyielding optimism. They will sneer and call you delusional, unrealistic, or naive. I command you to ignore them entirely. The vast majority of the population is deeply addicted to mediocrity. They have made a comfortable lifelong habit out of hopelessness. They feel profoundly threatened by anyone who dares to rise and walk upright while they have chosen to make peace with crawling in the dirt. You must ruthlessly cut off mental infection at its absolute source. Surround your consciousness exclusively with those who speak life, power, and ambition. Avoid like the plague those who constantly feed your latent fears. Tell me who your enemies are, and I will accurately predict who you are becoming. But more importantly, tell me who your closest friends are, and I will instantly outline the absolute limits of your future. Environment is vastly stronger than human willpower. If you choose to spend your days sitting in darkness with cynical minds, do not expect your intellect to shine with brilliant light. You must be fiercely selective about what you allow to influence your attitude, because whatever enters your ears will eventually seep deep into your spirit. Finally, let me leave you with this liberating truth. You do not require anyone's permission on this earth to develop this supreme power. You do not need a specialized university degree, a prestigious corporate title, or the validation of your peers. You require only one thing: a definitive, monumental decision. A decision to take absolute ownership of your thoughts. A decision to lead your mind with authority instead of being passively led by your emotions. A decision to become the exact kind of person that nothing on earth can break because your attitude flatly refuses to surrender. If you make that exact decision this very day, if you stand up and declare from this monumental moment forward, I no longer rent my attitude to my circumstances. I own it, I lead it, and I will protect it with my life, then you are already halfway to true greatness. The entire world ultimately bends to the collective will of those rare individuals who stand tall in spirit even when the physical body is weary unto death. Stand tall, my friend. Let us now bring this grand philosophy to its ultimate, definitive conclusion. You have listened to me this far, and that fact alone tells me something extraordinarily profound about your character. It tells me that you are no longer content to merely survive in the shadows of existence. You possess a deep hunger to master life, and true mastery must always begin within the laboratory of the mind. The final crowning layer of building an unbreakable positive mental attitude is this: you must possess a definite chief aim. Without a singular, magnificent purpose, the human mind will always drift into chaos. Without a burning, all-consuming goal, the intellect wanders aimlessly like a fallen leaf in an autumn wind, pushed, pulled, and tossed about by fear, doubt, distraction, and inherent weakness. You must anchor your consciousness to something vastly greater than your immediate physical comfort. You must wake up every single morning with a reason for existence so incredibly powerful, so vivid, and so deeply personal that absolutely nothing on earth can shake it out of your grasp. Not the threat of failure, not the pain of fatigue, not the opinion of the masses. Your definite chief aim is not just a standard goal written on a piece of paper. It is your identity and explosive action. It is the exact blueprint of who you are actively becoming, directed by a grand vision and sustained by a magnificent obsession. Every single man I ever analyzed who rose to historic greatness possessed this definite chief aim. They did not kind of want it, they did not merely hope it would happen. They lived it, breathed it, and embodied it. Their purpose was not something they occasionally worked on, it was the very essence of who they became. So I put the question squarely to you. What do you want so badly that you are willing to suffer for it? What do you crave so deeply from this life that you are fully prepared to be misunderstood, ridiculed, doubted, and even left utterly alone in the dark to achieve it? What magnificent vision of your life would make you feel that every single agonizing breath you took was worth the pain it cost to get there? Once you discover that purpose, you must burn it into the deepest fibers of your subconscious mind. Read your definite chief aim aloud every single morning and every single night. Feel the profound reality of it as if it were already physically done. Speak it with a raging torrent of emotion. Write it in stone within your heart, because vague desires will never produce anything more than vague, disappointing results. True clarity commands the universe to respond. And once you achieve that level of clarity, once your major purpose is permanently fixed in your mind like the unmoving North Star, your positive mental attitude ceases to be just a defensive shield. It becomes your sharpest, most lethal sword. Listen to me with absolute intensity. The individual who possesses a clear, magnificent purpose and fiercely protects their mental attitude becomes a completely unstoppable force of nature. They may be temporarily delayed by life, but they can never be permanently denied. They may fall flat 100 times, but they will invariably rise 101. They may struggle intensely, but they will never retreat a single inch. Why? Because they intimately understand that attitude is the golden hinge upon which the massive doors of human destiny swing. Your chosen attitude determines with absolute certainty whether a crushing failure becomes the premium fuel for your next victory or the tragic finish line of your ambitions. It dictates whether a devastating loss becomes a priceless masterclass or a lifelong pathetic excuse. It decides whether an overwhelming hardship becomes your ultimate downfall or your glorious rise to the apex of achievement. But you must guard that attitude like an ancient warrior guards his sword in the heat of battle. You must defend it with ruthless aggression against every form of negative influence. This requires you to immediately banish toxic, small-minded people from your inner circle. It requires you to fully shut out the poisonous, fear-mongering media. It requires you to execute your own inner critic and eradicate the insidious mental laziness that breeds gossip, self-pity, and any low-vibrational thought that dares to sap your vital energy. You must completely eliminate victim thinking from your life. No matter what tragedy, setback, or injustice life throws at you, you must step forward and take absolute 100% responsibility for your life. Own the situation, shape its meaning, and rise triumphantly from it. Never under any circumstances allow another human being or an external situation to dictate the ultimate meaning of your existence. That sovereign power belongs to you and to you alone. Allow me to speak directly and intimately to your heart. As a man who has spent an entire lifetime meticulously studying the greatest giants of human history and lifting the forgotten souls of the earth out of despair, hear me when I tell you. You are not here by mere accident. You were intentionally created by the grand architect of the universe with a specific, majestic purpose. You possess a unique spark, a distinct capability that this world desperately needs. Your very survival up to this moment is absolute, undeniable proof that your high destiny is real and waiting for you. But that destiny will never ever manifest if you continue to allow your mind to be filled with the toxic weeds of fear, self-doubt, and cowardly excuses. Your primary sacred job on this earth is to thoroughly cleanse your inner world. Feed your mind daily with the roaring words of true greatness. Immerse yourself in the biographies of the giants who walked the earth before you. Speak affirmations of raw power into existence. Take bold, aggressive, massive action toward your goals every single day. And above all else, deliberately think thoughts that lift your spirit, expand your vision, empower your resolve, and direct your steps relentlessly forward. Every single time you do this, your soul grows. Every single time you allow fear to dictate your choices, your potential shrinks. Growth or decay, that is the ultimate choice you must make every single day of your life. Let me hand you a final golden rule that has never once failed me across all my years of experience. Act consistently as if it were mathematically impossible to fail. I do not utter those words lightly. I say it because the cold, hard data of human history proves that fear has stolen vastly more magnificent dreams than actual failure ever could. The paralyzing fear of failure keeps potentially great men and women desperately small, trapped in the suffocating prison of mediocrity. The anticipation of defeat is often more powerful than defeat itself. Break those chains today. Step into the absolute fullness of your power. Control your mind, direct your attitude, and let the world watch in awe as you claim the magnificent destiny you were born to achieve.